accident on it. So I don't mind. I gotta get my phone on that, whatever. If it's okay.
Mine don't work in here anyway.
I just missed like 17 family group messages
Yeah,
for Christmas.
I hate group texts.
Oh, no.
Sometimes they never end.
Yeah.
And everybody's liking comments and hearting
Right?
comments nonstop. So like, I don't know if I was like, I don't know if I should reply to Steve, so just wait and do like 7 minutes, like every like 3 hours.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get some.
Good.
We were rough on attendance.
Yeah.
What's new? Share flowers.
Oh.
Someone could get it out. He doesn't want
Mr. Baxter, you're my friend.
it.
So you're paintballing. You got shot with paintball.
All right, fast enough for that.
You can pull the thing up on there.
Oh, you didn't the agenda? Sorry.
That's all right.
I can pull it in.
You can just send me that, and then I can do the agenda too. And then I don't know how to turn the camera thing on. You might have to teach me how to do that. You might have to write that down. Step by step instructions.
Pictures?
Yeah.
There you go.
Alright. There you go, 7:05. Calls me into order. And do we have any additions of the agenda
No changes here.
or changes? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
All opposed? Been approved. Visitors to be heard. Guidelines. Step pay. Okay. I just noticed I never read guidelines there.
It's so if you click on there, it gives you the guidelines for public.
Okay. Maybe I
2
just never
minutes
noticed that.
and address.
Okay. No visitors to be heard, so, the minutes of November 7th, do you want to look those over? Anything changes? If not, your motion to approve the minutes of November 7th.
A motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Okay.
Aye. All opposed? Minutes approved. Moving on to Steve with his Parks and Rec Manager.
Everybody should have one there. The soccer, the spring registration will start in January. I just wanted to, do we want to do the old football field or the school property? So like fall we did the old football field, but spring we did the school property just to the east of the football field. I don't care. I
I
mean,
think we did that because the one by the football field flooded last.
the old football field.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
That's why
why in the spring it's always wet down there.
always, so try the school one.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least half of it is usually unusable.
Oh, for sure. No, I was just wanted to make sure. So I just got to make sure and tell Skip
Yep.
/ talk to Dan about that. Gotcha. Baseball, softball, the registration. I'll pull that up. So everything's kind of ready to go. Oh, it's kind of small, but there we go. So the red stuff is normal. The final team placement's normal. This year, each family will have to choose between volunteering to coach or concessions. That's the very one. So just to like,
Even to move on, you have to pick one.
correct. You would have to click either you're going to coach or you're going to do the concession stand. If you click coach, it goes right to your like kids sign up stuff right away. If you click concession stand, it gives weeks, and then you'll have to pick your week, and then you'll be able to sign up your kid. And then after those, registration, I'll send out the games for that week with the time slots to those specific people. They can pick their 2-hour time slot.
Perfect.
The wording, I don't know. Make sure and read it, because sometimes it makes a lot of sense in my head and maybe not in anybody else's.
That makes sense.
So you're covering the whole night of concessions, basically.
No,
right?
Well, it'd be like a 2-hour time slot, just like normal.
Oh, it's just like, is that
Yeah,
how much?
it's just like normal. There'll be the 2-hour, and honestly, if we get enough, I'm gonna say it's a 1 hour. To be honest, because I got it like for as many families as we have and as weeks as we have in games, there should be plenty to.
So it's just one time slot during that week.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's not.
Like during the summer.
And that's and then I just said the regular season or whatever, because there will be we had the 10U tournament and we had some those right and amateur ball. I'm gonna try to really talk to those guys to see if they can get a parent, not a parent, but there's usually a grandma or grandpa sometimes that like doing that stuff too. So to see if they can kind of find their guys at first and things like that. So. But yeah, if it makes sense, I'll go with it.
I think it's good.
I like the either coach or concessions.
Right, and I don't, and I really hope that people that coach do not have to do that's coaching is enough. I promise.
Yeah,
And
practice
this
is
is
all
all
that stuff.
correct. And I hope this will get away from people having, like you guys. Would you have 3 teams? I hope it'll really alleviate some of that stuff. I mean, that's my hope, because I had 2 teams and this, and I'm not doing that. All right, that'll go out start of January or whatever. Baseball tryouts are April 3rd. I'll put that email out for sure this week or whatever. Make sure to send those dates out. I was waiting on the USF coaches they're lined up and ready to go and stuff like that, and they said they were going to kind of run it like last year, like they would do their tryouts or whatever. So
That's cool.
And that's all age groups, sorry.
Yep, correct. That's 10U, 12U, 14U. Well, 14U, I guess, we'll see how that goes later on in the conversation. The batting cage Z-screen thing that we were talking about, the purchase is in the process. I'm talking to 2 companies on which one can kind of give us the best deal. It's the same screen or whatever, but it'll work for both softball and baseball, which is kind of a nice combo anyways. Batting cage was brought up last time. So the netting system, if you go down to kind of the 3rd bullet there, that would be the netting system for 2, throwing and hitting lanes. And that would be pretty nice. That's the best they can kind of get at Dakota Sports or whatever. And then after that, it would be the decision, do we want to put a cement pad or do we just want to agri-line it? I've seen both. I don't know what the best would be. I would say a cement pad with some turf spot for the pitcher, and that would probably be the best. Cost-wise, I don't.
How big area?
That would be, 70 by 40? Yeah, it's not that much. Not 70 by. Little 36, maybe.
70 by 36.
Roughly. That's what the netting covers anyway, so maybe a little skinnier than that, then because the poles would probably be on the outside. But
I figure if it's cement, if there's any moisture, you have a better chance of being able to use it. If it's air,
and that's
you
my
get those
thoughts,
times,
too.
you get puddles, you get balls, you get all
we'll have to
nasty.
clean it up and we'll have to redo it. Whereas if we just do this, it is aerated. And that was my thoughts too. And they can, I gotta kind of go out and measure the space there. I don't know if it would be a wide one with 2 parallel ones, or if it would be a really long one with one going that way, one going that way. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Just the space that we had, I'm not sure which one would fit the best. So
And this is in addition to what we already have?
this would be replacing the one we have. Correct. Because, and again, I don't know who made Canton's, but Canton's is very nice. If you go to Canton or whatever, when this starts getting, or even that, it's what they have is very nice.
The one by the pool.
Right, yeah. It's 2 lanes, cement, got turf, and it's pretty, yeah. I tried to contact who did it. They don't really have like a Parks and Rec person. They just have like people.
Yeah.
So they didn't really know who or where they got it from. So I was trying to ask.
Somebody knew somebody.
Right. Yeah. And then I was gonna talk to the school a little bit. They haven't passed girls softball as a sport yet, but I would assume that's gonna be coming. I would assume they'll want some use of those facilities and things, but so I don't know.
And so on
That's not
Temporary crisis.
so on the girls softball thing, I don't know if Lennox will have a team for the fact that you can't play club ball and play high school sports in the same season, which eliminates everybody that's on the Lennox team right now. So it's a big thing right now. So it's in the South Dakota high school bylaws. You can't be on a club team and do anything with a club team anytime during your season.
Gotcha.
So
And I don't know.
and you know how the club team, that's big business right now.
Right.
I mean, so we'll see. I've been looking into that, and I'm like, oh yeah,
that is.
So
we'll
we'll see.
And I know TIDA, they have all those girls play clubs, so they just must take a break.
They have to take a break. Yeah, you can't do
It's
anything.
the same with any high school sport.
Right.
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 Same like soccer.
Same,
Basketball. Yeah.
And then there was some grant possibilities. I'm trying to look into a little more of that. I know like the Twins do one, and there was some other baseball, like USA Baseball or something.
Is there any way to put like to ask for like a sponsor, like somebody in town to be like, hey, put like a permanent sign or put a stamp in the concrete. I don't know.
Are you volunteering?
No, I'm thinking bigger industrial businesses.
No, I
know
know
we've had
that.
issues in the past, but like,
No,
I don't know. Steel batting cage complex.
And I mean, by Nate's number there and this number, I mean, roughly I'd say 30-ish grand will get really close.
I think we talked that last meeting. They said that there's ways to.
Right. And I can approach people and say, if that's kind of, if we want to pursue that,
One of the big opportunities that we've had in the last few years have been these economic development grants, so Excel Energy and Mid-American Energies. So those are really good opportunities to get some stuff funded. Excel did the softball field improvements and some of the Pedal Valley Park improvements. Mid-American did some money for the pool, quite a bit actually. So there's opportunity there from a couple different avenues for us to pursue some grants.
and like, I don't know as if this is we need to get it done right now kind of thing. Maybe that's a 2-year type thing, but I think that would.
I think if we were to get the grants and sponsorships and everything in place this year, we would be able to
Something like that. That'd be awesome.
figure out what the bulk of the funding is
Right.
and budget that for 23.
And even if you could get into one of the concrete companies and saying, hey, if you give us concrete at a discounted rate, we'll say, concrete supplied by
Right,
you,
for sure. And I know, I can't remember who did the school, but they kind of helped with some of their guys and stuff too. So I know there's definitely some people that are willing to do that. So I will look into those things, Nate, on the Excel.
Blow down. The building sounds like it's going to blow down.
It is
all right.
The baseball uniforms, those are just blah styles that I picked. I am not a fashionista by any means. So, there's so many options. Like literally, if you want to look, I'll send them to you. But I was looking for quality, I guess, basically to last a while. Those are the 3 that the guy kind of recommended. I'm willing to look into other ones or other companies or anything like that too. They're basic, like the front one. I don't have any color. It's like orange with kind of the whites. All of that stuff's changeable. However, the next one is orange with black sleeve and white, and then the way back one is orange with kind of orange black camouflage on the sleeves there. And again, they range from about $20 to $25 a piece. So, and I looked, we would probably need roughly 150 jerseys. All different sizes and that would be 10U up to 14U.
Is that like a polyester?
Great question. I don't know. I texted you to tell me.
Well, no, I know, but I'm not in that world anymore, so.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, and I can maybe
I
send
could text you back on that.
Well, I'll send you the link, and that way you can like look it over and see what you think too. Because like I said, I was kind of just I clicked anything from 20 to 25 because there's some that are 40 and they're like reversible, you know. And I was like, yeah, that seems a little too. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know if we want to pick a style. He wasn't in too big a rush by any means, but I know everything, you know, with supplies and that whole stuff. If we maybe want to do it, if that's a choice.
If we can get them, I would say we should get them because the henceforth why I made the move is 80% of the product that I was purchasing is sitting in containers off the ship to California, and I didn't have nothing to do.
Correct.
So it's hard to get anything.
So, any preferences, I guess, on?
This one looks like the one we already have. Well, similar.
Right,
I don't know.
correct. So I went kind of similar and a little bit different. And there are, like I said, I didn't know if we wanted to go to a black one versus an orange one.
So they say like Orioles across the front, or what are they?
The front would
or Lennox.
Correct. He was more worried about getting the shirt in. That part's easy for him. Like that part he can change on the computer, and does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as long as they can get them in, is what he was more worried about.
Okay.
I like the first one.
The orange one is the white.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second one looks like a office polo shirt.
It's a little too.
It does have like red bulge.
Yeah. I mean, like I would wear that pattern to work. You know what I'm saying? I was like, that'd be all right. Let's do this. Put a collar on it. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, that's the
First one. I don't know. I think they look good. I don't know. What do the ladies think?
Moms, what would you rather watch?
I didn't mind the second one. But they're all fine.
Maybe you ask him like, is there one of these that's going to be easier to get in?
Right. I could ask him. He's been really good.
We just want good quality jerseys.
Right.
And
That's
that's
kinda-
colors. And
Gotcha. And I can ask that, and I can send a link to everybody if you want to look through it. Like there were so many choices. I'm like, okay, this is good enough.
I'm sure they'll do a great job.
Okay. All right. And they
Yeah,
show
we trust
pink
you.
and
So that first one's orange is the main color?
orange is the main color, and the like sleeve thing you can make white, you can make black. I mean, you could get it in black with orange.
We don't want to do black because it's so hot.
And that's what I was trying to avoid. The black as being the main.
well, does it clean well? I mean, for the most part. Like it
Yeah,
probably has a hard
like on that
time.
little spots, you'd be fine. But if it was all white, then you're really running the egger line doesn't come over.
I noticed that you had it's all orange. I'm like,
Well,
that's
especially if we're going to use them, like, you know, I don't want it. Because there's going to be some that don't get washed until the end.
Yes.
All right, so
So
I
I
will
would wash until Steve washed it.
Yeah,
So we
right.
washed it.
I will get those figured out and kind of in the works and let everybody know on that. So yeah, like I said, it would be roughly $20 to $25. Nate, do we need to like vote on that cost, or do we need to know that right away? No, good. All right, let's skip 14U baseball. We'll get to softball then quick. So I know we've talked about this a few times. Clint, we kind of really wanted to talk about it with you, with the splitting by age, or you know, that kind of thing.
And so whatever we do, we just gotta stick with.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And then we'd be fine after that. I don't think it really matters either way. We just have to pick something and go with it.
Just okay.
And so if you split them all by age and keep going down, the theory with that is you keep going with those girls when you go up the ladder, and then you build. You have teams that build together.
Right.
That's was the premise of why we did that. But if you just want a mesh of just random girls every year, then you do it the other way. And unless you're letting coaches pick teams. But.
Well, no, and baseball does it the random way, and like I said, when I read through it, I was like, okay, is there anything? And that's what I read, and that's why we did it this last year randomly. I'm good with either way. It completely makes sense. like what you're saying, now we have the same group of girls and you can, they would know what to expect and things. Feedback from this last year is they really liked the fact that some of those olders were with youngers and they kind of got to know each other in a different grade and and learn from each other. So I can see both ways.
Yeah, so either one works. There isn't a huge benefit either way. The only thing is if they would stick together long enough, by the time they get to 14U, 16U, they could be a pretty salty team.
Right.
That would be your one advantage. But in girls softball, kids drop off all the time. So I don't know if you bet on the future or just play for the present.
For simplicity, it might be nice to do things the same.
Just between baseball and softball.
Yeah. I think that would make sense. I mean, you can say baseball, we all do it the same.
And that's, and I mean, I don't want to necessarily say randomly either, because it's a little bit of coach's input with who's a pitcher, who's a catcher, that type of thing.
Yeah, well, especially with softball, you have to make sure you have a pitcher in each team.
Right.
One team's not going to have a chance.
Right. And that's kind of the same thing with baseball, is I try to look at the ages too, where if, Bing, and that way you can mix it up pretty evenly. So I guess we'll do randomly again then with some coach's input as we do that then. And then back to 14U baseball, I guess. Nate kind of created a policy from our last meeting there. I know the city council.
Yeah, city council. So based on the last park and rec board meeting, drafted a policy that I think would accomplish what we were looking to accomplish with this 14U thing. That being said, I think I emailed everybody that the council wanted you guys to reconsider that policy. And I don't know, Chad, if you want to say anything about that. I watched the meeting again today.
Yeah.
It was really around the competition versus recreation mission.
Right, and I guess there's a lot of discussion. Several of the members are kind of kids go through this age, and their feedback was, it's not really the goal of the rec baseball to, go this route, and they didn't feel that it was necessarily broken the way it was, that they just weren't in favor of the change. Can't remember what else they talked about.
There was some discussion on if it's not really broke.
Yeah.
We have a good strong program.
And I know, Kelsey, you brought it up last time. It's like, okay, we do this to the 14U, then the 12U's going to want to do it, the 10U's going to want to do it, and it's where do you draw the line? And we brought up the whole, the 12U and under has was it the Prairie? Prairie Grass League, and 14U doesn't, and there was some concession like that. It makes some sense, but they just strongly opposed that, going down that route.
I can't remember if there was a sense of the council, not necessarily a vote.
Yep.
But it was generally a sense of the council that this may not be the best route to go.
So what?
Of course, if the policy is approved here, then it has to go to the city council for approval, and if it's not going to get approved there,
Right.
I don't know. I'm not going to predict which way it's going to go, but based on the discussion,
I know there's three pretty strong votes against it, and I guess technically we could still get it through with 3 night names, but
So my question would, from looking at other cities, like Tri-Valley, not cities, but Tri-Valley, that area, West Central, Dakota Valley, they all have baseball associations. We had one at one time. What was we had that. Did that dissolve into this? Did that dissolve? Then this was made? Because to me, those should be decisions made by a third party, probably.
Yeah, I think that was part of the discussion at the council meeting too, is that there's no lack of competitive opportunities for these kids to participate in. The Baseball Association, LBA, changed its name 2-3 years ago. I can't even tell you what the name change was to.
So there is something still?
There is something, but it's not active.
Okay, so it's
I think it was more of an overarching recreational
It was similar to what they talked about, like parents getting together and getting an association and taking
Yeah.
teams and competing all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
My question, was there any of those coaches that came and talked to us, were they at the city council meeting at all?
No.
Okay. I just think that has a little bit of weight to it. Just when cause the city council, like, hey, it wasn't broken. You know, they were coming to us telling that they had seen it as broken, but yet their attendance at our last meeting here or at the city council, it's kind of like to kind of get a little more input from them. You know, were you here, Clint? So
Did you bring up an executive council or was it in the public?
It was in
It was
it was public because I think I read through the notes of it.
Yep.
Okay.
That Ike and who was the other coach that was in here? Spieler. They just expressed their concern about the kids having to do tournament team.
Yep.
And having to be, then all of a sudden that tournament team is split up. Those kids are for the rec baseball, so they essentially have two teams. Their tournament team is their kids, and then they're split up essentially, let's say two here, two there, two there, two there. So that way they're not consistently getting practice. And we kind of got further clarification through Steve just to see what he wanted because it was kind of confusing. And they kind of said, hey, we would like that tournament team would still play rec. They would just go, instead of splitting them, they would have their own rec league. And so that was the discussion last month. That was like, hey, I feel like it's been a few months, so we kind of like, we need to go one way or another and kind of discuss it.
So I mean, that sounds like the club softball type thing where you get the group that goes to tournaments, your club team.
Right.
And then they travel. Or even basketball, you get a club basketball team. They get together, they travel.
Well, and his thing was they're still going to play rec league in Lennox. Instead of split, the only thing would be different instead of splitting those kids up, they would be on team A essentially.
Kind of like what you were saying, if these kids are at one age in softball, one of the pros was they're playing together.
Yeah.
And in this time, in your case, they're playing maybe several years together. Well, they're just asking for 1 year of playing together with the same team. And to me, that's what the other towns do.
Yeah,
So that's why that's my.
I think the big question on the I would say the con side of it would be, does Parks and Rec want to have like how much exclusiveness they call it, like that's what I've heard used, like because we're exclusive to, you get a tryout, but that gets that team to be exclusive, the tournament, but then they're split, so it kind of has that buffer, but now they're going to be together on that team, so it's even more exclusive. I think that's the one side to it. There's benefits, but there's also, now you have this exclusiveness, and it's a Parks and Rec program funded by city.
So with that, is there an opportunity for every kid to play baseball?
Yes.
So if there is an opportunity, you're not excluding the opportunity for any kid to play, then having something for another level up wouldn't diminish a child's ability to play. It would give, I think, let them play together all year. You want the best team at the end of the year. You can't do it by every once in a while getting together, having two different teams.
And that's
If that's their point.
I don't really have a strong opinion either way myself, but some of the people that are against it, or their thoughts is, we're not trying to have the best 14U team. That's not our goal as a Park and Rec. We want to try to grow and we want the best, ultimately, Legion team down the road. It's kind of a grooming ground for these kids, and getting them kind of pared down, you're going to lose some of those fringe kids that when they're 14, maybe they're small and haven't matured yet, but when they're 16, they're one of the best players. So that was some of the strong kind of
On the
conversation
flip
I
side
had.
of that, I think you'll lose some by not. Right.
We talked a little bit about that.
You lose your really good ones because they're just going to go to a club
Because
team.
they're not included. I think you need to provide a program for the average players and the above average players. I mean,
And if it doesn't go with the Parks and Rec, then maybe we shouldn't be managing that.
Right.
Is
Well,
my
I think-
thought. Because then that gets us out of all of that discussion. Now, hopefully it would go on to a third party that is going to do it in a nice way, but we're already in the tournament team stuff at the younger grades. I mean, so we're already against our mission in some way, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, see,
So-
that's,
But I've been talking about that for 3 years.
Yeah, and that's
I
why.
have the same question, like, why do we have tryouts and even like,
Right.
why are we doing that?
If there's already that gray line now, what's the difference?
I think
Is there an easy way to transition that if we choose to do that? You know, you don't want to just say, no, we're not doing that, and then,
You'd rather have an association.
yes, and that's why I brought that up.
And then, I don't, and
Which
we're
would be
talking
an
about
appropriate place for that.
That's a,
VFW baseball or Legion baseball or SEBA
Teener
baseball.
baseball. I mean, there's
Right, or
always
I mean, there is definitely opportunities. I completely agree. I don't know either. I see all
said,
this. I see all sides.
we're already doing a tournament team.
that's how I
It's
said
a
that
tournament
last
team
meeting.
for an older group. It'd be
We're
the same
already
thing.
in the mud puddle. So I talked to a couple people that aren't connected to Lennox. It was a long discussion because I had to like explain it from A to B, and they probably didn't care. But I just wanted an outside opinion. And said, hey, okay, here's where we stand. Here's where we have people against it. Here's where we have people for it. And most of the time, it's like, well, if you either have one or the other. We have tournament team and we allow this going on, or we go back to full parks and back. Now, in our policy, I read through a little bit. I didn't really see anything. It says that they'll pay for teams to go to tournaments. I've never really seen anything here that it doesn't mean that, let's say, Chad's coaching tournament team, and I'm coaching just a rec team. I can come in and say, Nate, I'm going to take my rec team to the tournament this weekend. It kind of says that the Parks and Rec will fund that.
we
Right?
talked about that.
And so
And in the past, they have. Anybody
Right.
who will go, the city will
they'll fund it. So you don't necessarily have to be Chad's team just getting funded. I'd be like, my boys want to go play. We'll see how we do.
And we were really, albeit this last summer, we were really close to having 2 in the 10U, right? 10U. It was really close. It
I
just
mean,
didn't kind of work out in the last.
Maybe if we would go and say, hey, we want to kind of get away from, if we're going to go to one side, we're going to get away from tournament team. We just kind of try to push more for our coaches in rec to be like, hey, really pool your parents and stuff. Go to a tournament once a month, you know.
The problem with that is if you're gonna go to these tournaments, you want,
You want to compete. I see
Yeah.
that.
And that's what.
because other teams are. I mean,
Other teams have the best. They're having the tournament teams. They're having the tryouts.
and speaking from experience, whether you're the best kid or the worst kid on the team, it's no fun to get blown out every tournament. I mean, that doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah.
And this is happening around here mostly at the 14U only. At 12U, 10U, I think they're playing rec and then tournament on top of that.
So we were at a,
So the only change I think would be at that 14U level.
right. We were at a basketball tournament and I was doing the score with a guy from Mitchell. So Mitchell's a lot bigger than Lennox, I understand. But we were talking about our teams and he's like, yeah, this is just a baseball team plays basketball. And I was like, oh, speaking of that, I'm on the Park and Rec board. How do you guys do your baseball? And he's like, yeah, we just do. They just like, there must be a association that they.
Yeah, they have a baseball association.
I'm from that part. So
Oh, there you
not
go.
Metro, but that part, yes. So they just have an association and kids sign up and they play on that same team until they get recruited to a better team, pretty much.
And that's
And that's how it works. Yeah. I'm kind of with Tyler. Kind of said it best. Like we're already kind of like 1 foot in. You know, the one issue with 13U, 14U is that they have like a region district tournament to get to. You know, does that make sense? So some of those they sign up for the state tournament. Great. Well, they might not even get to play in it because you don't make it that far. Whereas the lower you sign up for it, you're just automatically in. So that's kind of one difference.
But they have the chance.
Correct.
They have the chance in regions
To get to state, correct. But that's one of their, issues are like talking with Ike and Spieler and those guys is by those regions, those other teams have probably played 15 games together. This is like their third.
I don't think we're saying it's broken, but we're giving it an opportunity to grow and for
not all change is bad.
Right.
And not all change is permanent, is
Right.
what I would say. Like,
Yeah,
you know, I'm not scared to try it, and if it's like, wow, that was terrible. Yeah. You're right. And like, I'm okay with making that mistake. You can blame me, I guess. I don't know how else to say that. But like, now is it gonna, like I said, if we pass it here, is it gonna pass there?
Right.
Well, like Tyler said, if they're not showing up to their council meetings to voice their opinions, they're only showing up here, the code is in question.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I
do
don't
they
know.
know? Do they know
They
that
know.
they were gonna vote on that?
Well,
They spoke to them though in a personal.
I was.
They just didn't come to the meeting, but.
I always have a hard time with people in town that say, like, I don't know. I think it's pretty public. Like, you can go on. And I'm sorry, but I lived here for a couple of years, and I've read this for probably 3 or 4 years, to be honest, just to see, like, I don't know. I'm a nerd, but so like the whole thing about not really knowing, like, they had opinion on it enough to come here and tell us. If I was really pushing hard, I would be like, all right, I'm going to watch this and make sure so when they start talking about it, I want to
Run it the whole way.
discuss it. I'm really like, even you can tell with my vote, I'm like really fenced on this whole thing. And last month I voted to say okay for it strictly because we're already in that tournament team's spot. You know, we're already there. So I also see the other side of it. I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough. It would be nice if they were here to kind of further discuss a little more details now that we kind of know where they're at.
When is the next city council meeting?
Next week, Monday, 8 days. I wonder if we couldn't have a work session with the committee and our board before then.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Or before the second meeting in December. Sometime this month, just have a work session with this group.
Yeah.
In the city council. Maybe not the committee, then the whole council. Not make any decisions at this time.
Just see what everybody's thinking. And,
Well, just kind of get each other's opinion out there so they're not saying, hey, they pushed it forward, all voted yes. Well, there was a lot of discussion back and forth last meeting, so.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I brought that up too, that you guys were here, like, we talked for like an hour on the subject, and it was like on the fence the whole way, and like, there's definitely pros and cons of both solutions, so
Yeah.
getting aligned, I think as a whole group would be a good idea.
Right. I think a big thing, like Steve said, I think that's a big thing to push is that we can make a decision and be not afraid to look in the mirror later on and be like, ooh. Okay. Yeah, I have too. Like, you know,
Take a shot on that.
You know, so, you know what, I don't know as if we, you know, I assume our numbers are going to increase because they've increased in, you know, like there's way more in 10U, but, you know, like you said, kids drop off at that age and stuff. And so I don't, you know, if it starts to increase, then we will have to look at it again to figure out, are we doing 2 teams? Are we doing, you know, that? I mean, there's going to be a lot of.
Those are great problems to have.
Right, no, I completely agree.
Yeah. One thing I seen when I was talking tournament teams, correct me if I'm wrong, one of my first few meetings, didn't we, and maybe we just voted to push up city council. I was reading through our policies, and maybe we didn't need to put it in here, but did we change it to allow people or kids from other towns without teams to try out for our tournament team?
That was on, we voted it, they voted against it. Or then we re-looked at it the next time and then it voted against it.
Okay.
And only a case-by-case basis.
Okay. I just couldn't remember. I was reading through, I'm like, there's like nothing that really stresses
Only
out
depending
town.
on if numbers would not allow.
Okay.
So if like, for example, older, I can't remember, is 16U softball, is that the oldest we do?
Yeah.
16U softball was really close to not having a team, so they branched out to a few other towns. And then we kind of had some recruits come in towards the end, so then it filled up, and then there was no one else. But there was something like a situation like that.
I was just like, I don't remember how that all went. I knew that.
Initially, we were like, yeah, so let's
There was something different there, yeah.
Right.
Cool.
So I like
I'll
that
get something
idea.
scheduled. I'll shoot something around to help schedule everything, see who's available when. And it's kind of a rough time of year to find the time, and we really wind things down this time of year in terms of agendas. But we'll try and find a time before the end of the year this done, and you can open up registration in January.
Okay. Concessions is good to go. Anything else on that? Sorry.
No, that's
Trying to
all.
scoot along. Concessions is good to go. Sponsor sign is good to go. I talked with Bridget and Brittany at school. That's all in the works there also. They're kind of trying to figure out their timeline and when lessons could be and things. So that's all. We're not in a big rush on that, but to get it out sooner than later, I think that way parents know exactly when their lesson is and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We're selling pool passes already, so.
Well, no, and that's what Bridget said that too, and I'm like, well, I don't know how much a pool pass even costs or anything. So I probably should, but I don't. So yeah, that's just it. Should be hopefully. I'm hoping like February for sure.
For to be on Sports Center.
Correct.
That should be plenty of time.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, yeah.
I would think so.
Because most people don't use it till April.
And the costs stay the same.
Yes, so far they're staying the same. Yeah. We will have to adjust probably next year.
I
Just
figured.
I
Yeah.
really
we can adjust by 2 to 3% every year, but you know, $102, 102.5. You know. So when we get to 105 or 55 or something like that, that'll happen with this year's
Yeah.
inflation. So
That's kind of all I had. Any other questions about?
The, but the Evergreen Park, so the equipment for that, I know it was delayed, right?
yeah, it's supposed to show up tomorrow.
Okay.
The playground. Yeah. And if we're lucky, I mean, we'll have another 70-degree day and we can get some work.
Well, but I know it was back ordered, so, or whatever you do, on some ship
I
somewhere.
think like Thursday it's supposed to almost be 50, and then
Yes.
Friday it's supposed to snow.
Yeah.
So we won't. And I already told Wellmark because our grant period runs through the end of December this year. I already told Wellmark we will not have it all done, but we should have it all paid for. The sign is up. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's a really cool sign. They did a great job.
It looks really nice.
So we'll landscape that probably next spring. And then the sand is there, but it's darn near impossible to move with a skid loader until it's got some moisture on it. So they're going to try to do it with a loader and see if that would help. So you've got a better wheelbase there and you don't turn as much. So we'll see. But all the equipment is in for that as well, and that's in post and everything. So.
Yeah, I saw the post sticking out, and I saw the big pile of dirt, and I'm like, woohoo!
That's a lot of sand.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a lot of sand. I was like, if I was a kid, I'd be thinking, oh, ride my bike up that.
Like, just surprised me.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, a lot of trucks.
And getting a league, is that something that the Park and Rec Board has to do, or?
I would suggest it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something we could put in future.
An adult league or
Yeah.
Well, I know there's a lot of kids that want to play in the league. So that's the one thing I've heard a lot is that there's a lot of kids, like middle school, early high school kids, who want to play in the sand volleyball league.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So
I used to play every summer. It was a blast. We had so much fun doing that.
You'd probably have to staff that in some way.
right, it would have to be like one of our. It'd have to be like one of our
adult one, which
You'd have to have a coach.
self-sufficient.
Are you parent?
Alternative.
Oh,
Tournament volleyball team. In all honesty, do you like stand? I'm putting a sports engine together for that.
I think
see
that
what's
to
the
see what
interest there is.
cities out there.
I mean,
We can put
do
on
we
a
charge for that, or is
survey.
that just like? Yeah. Okay.
Is
Yeah.
that like a soccer?
But you know, you
Like
just
a $30
Yeah, it'd be
person, or
I
like?
wouldn't even think necessarily that.
Okay.
We'd look at what it costs to run and, you know, in terms of maintenance, keep the courts up, that kind of stuff.
Gosh.
Yeah.
somebody go pick the weeds.
rake them, yeah.
Are we putting any lights up over the pits?
Not yet.
Okay, I didn't know.
So that's gonna be a,
Right, because
That's one of those Excel grants in the future that I want to go after.
softball field looks amazing.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
Oh my gosh,
It was
like
crazy. It was just like one day. And then
Yeah.
I drove by, and then
That's
I was like,
I'm driving by and I'm like, oh, there's like holes. I was like, the fields are gone. I was like, whoa.
There's hardly a trip hazard.
Yeah, right.
But you're not going to get a concussion.
Yeah, you're not gonna get. Those rock hard tires are gone. I was like,
We did, speaking of that, the church league softball or whatever gave a pretty good donation, like $400 or $500 or something. That was awesome.
oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
there is still some more work to do on that softball field, because I still think on those third and first base lines where that water collects, we need to drain that.
We need to have a drain tile or something.
Yeah. So we may end up trenching that in the spring, but we'll see how the spring work goes.
But having those out of there opens it up to, if you're going to have some kind of like tournaments coming in, they wouldn't be able to come in with those in that you can actually bring in now. And so that's huge. So.
Pedal Palace Park is looking really good. It's got a number of trees came down that were damaged in the storm and are being damaged beyond the point of saving. And then we also took down that giant evergreen tree in Pedal Palace Park that has to come out to make those improvements there. So it looked really weird at first. You could see everything now. You could see the whole pool and all that. But yeah, everything looks really good over there. Skip's doing an awesome job. If you guys haven't had a chance to meet him yet.
It's hard to miss it.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Not that many people make me feel short.
I feel really short next to it.
Cool. Anybody got anything else? That was good, productive. Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Merry Christmas.
Oh man.
I didn't take that.
There could have been this win. This could be having a ball in a stand.
I was gonna sit tonight after drill, and I'm like,
You can't. It's just like.
see, it would even be at my back.
That would be. It's just like.
Can we have a meeting on January 2nd? Does that matter? That's just our next one, so I didn't know if we.
I'll leave that up to the
Or if you want to choose the 9th.
I probably would.
January 2nd.
Yeah,
I would
that's
probably.
fine. So we move it to the 9th, just so.
Oh, you didn't
know?
Apologize for it. I'm like, amen. I was like,
I had a buddy shoot one across the street. That's why I posted that. He's like, "Oh, it's no big." I'm like, "That's awesome, dude." It's like it's his biggest archery buck. He said, "I'll send number one." I'm like, "That's a 140."
yeah.
I said, "You should just go." He's like, "Well, my other guys gave me a hard time because he'd be bigger." I said, "Screw him."
Yeah.
He's not out there doing the
Sounds good.
Oh, honey, it's so soccer. Oh my God.
somebody saying somebody shot too small up here.
A guy across the street from our road from me, he's like, "I'm like, hey, you're moving